Hey everyone, welcome to Oma Talks with Natalie Romash and Rita Kakati-Shah. Hi Rita.
Hi Natalie, hi everyone.
Guys, I'm so glad to see you all here again, and today we're gonna talk about the communications. Rita, I'd like to ask to start from the very kind of maybe personal question, but from my experience, it is related to everyone.
Yeah.
So in real life, we tend to ask questions sometimes in short and sometimes in a long form and using more words as than it should be. And at the same time, we talked about keeping the communication clear and concise. How to actually do it and why clear and concise makes such a difference?
Yeah, great question, Natalie. So I think here's the thing. When we talk naturally, when we communicate via speaking, we naturally tend to explain more than is needed. It's a natural human reaction. We tend to try to justify our words a little bit more. So if you were writing something down, for example, it might be one sentence. When you were to speak that one sentence, sometimes we can find ourselves rambling a little bit. That's a very natural reaction. So I always tell people, keep it clear and concise so that your message doesn't get lost. As women, we do this actually more. This is something what we're known for, that we can actually not come to the point straight away. So I tell people all the time, bullet point in your head. What is the main point, 2 points or 3 points you want to get across in what you're delivering via your speaking, via your presentation, and just keep those 3 points so they're very clear and they're short and sweet.
Oh, thank you, Rita. I hope this helped, and I literally trying to do it by my own, but as all may see that my first question was literally like all over the place. So let's move to the next one, and I hope that this one will sound clear and concise. How to be more confident and how to prepare yourself before you're starting to communicate?
Yeah, actually, that's a really, really good point, because we think of confidence as being separate to communication, but one very much impacts the other. So I say, and I say this with everyone and everything, when you're about to communicate via speaking, via writing, whatever the method is that you're choosing, make sure you practice first. When you practice, when you give it a go, when you prepare and rehearse over and over again, it becomes that much easier to deliver. You know your content that much better, so you have to look down a little less, you have to read off slides a little bit less, you know the content really well. And you have to remind yourself that you are the expert in what you're going to talk about. So know those things, then they will automatically become more confident in how you deliver. There are also extra hacks as well. I love power posing. Some of our folks might remember we talked about this a little while back, but you know, sometimes if you're about to deliver a presentation, for example, just standing with your hands on your hips for just 30 seconds can do magic in terms of how you feel, how you deliver. Just having your head up high, opening up your upper body can make a difference in how you deliver and how you feel more confident before you do that.
Oh, thank you, Rita. Guys, just remind you that power pose, even you can do it even when you sit, you can just put your hands on your weights and just like sit like this 2 minutes, and you will definitely notice the difference.
Yeah.
And Rita, I have one more question, and it's different because like, as you know, and everyone know that New York is the place where you can meet people from all over the world with different religions, with different beliefs, with different cultures, different way how we look, how we dress. And currently things change, but not like dramatically, because we still can meet all of these people and we can meet everyone all over the internet. But with meeting differences, there is a situation when you can meet the person, you are curious about their religion, about their beliefs, about their culture. And at the same time, especially when you're trying to be clear, concise, and say it in a written way, how to ask those questions with respect, with being polite and not like offend them. Because it's super easy to get weird in religious questions, in questions of how you look and why do you like do things this way. And I personally have such experiences. I just met a friend, had a new friend, and she's from different religions, and I'm very curious about like what is it about, why do they treat things this way or that way, but how to ask this polite, and how actually to build better trust from this conversation and not make person feel awkward.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So cross-cultural communications is everywhere and affects all of our lives. You know, we happen to be in New York City right now, But, you know, whether you're in another big cosmopolitan city or another part of the world, this is something that affects all of us. So I always say lead by example. You know, different people react in different ways. Only because you are in a certain city or somebody comes from a certain part of the world doesn't mean they're going to be comfortable with a question you're going to ask them. So I lead with an example and I sort of test the waters. For example, if I want to know where somebody comes from, I find that if I'm back in the UK, I love it when somebody asks me where I come from, and other people love it too. You know, we talk about heritage all the time and our roots, where we were born. Here in the US, it's a bit of a different story. Ask somebody else where they come from and they can kind of curl up a bit. They don't talk about, I find, as much about their heritage or where they're from. They're like, you know, we're from here, we were born here. So it's a very, very different, almost, how do you measure that? So to lead by example, you could say, for example, hi, I am from, so with me, for example, I said, hey, I'm of Assamese heritage, but I was born and brought up in the UK. But, you know, I live in New York now, and this is what I like to eat, or this is what I find I do when I go visit my relatives in Assam, and this is what I do back in the UK. What about you? So by doing that, what you have done is made a safe space to kind of open up what you're trying to find out. Because, you know, if you ask a question, it's not clear. What are you asking for? What are you trying to find out? If you ask about yourself and you volunteer the information, then it's clear. Oh, she's talking about her background and she just volunteered some information personal to her. If I feel comfortable about this report, I'm going to volunteer back. And then you're going to know straight away if they volunteer back or they don't. They might say, oh, great, nice to know that. Let's move, and then move on to something else. That's your cue and how you should read that situation. That is one way of cultural communications.
Thank you, Rita. You know, it's such a big relief, like for myself personally. And even we talk a lot at UMA about giving and leading by our own example. I have no idea that I can start talking about like my background and where I'm coming from and the culture and everything. And this way I can literally understand whether person is open to talk about this or it's or they're not interested or any other situation.
Yeah, and the other thing, Natalie, on the back of that is that, remember, communication is two-way. Sometimes if you just go and ask somebody a question, they can feel like you almost like you're kind of targeting them, or you sort of like questioning them, or sort of they feel a little bit put on the spot.
Oh yeah.
So by doing the other way around, you're kind of evening the ground, and you're making it more of a conversation, more of like an interaction between friends.
Yeah, definitely. And it removes all the awkwardness, especially when you don't know the person pretty well, and it's just the beginning of the communication.
Yeah.
Rita, and there is one more important thing about the communication, and it is the situation when you need give feedback, or when you feel that you should say something. Yeah. And when I moved to US, I noted that here it is very different to what I used to, because here people are very polite and this is wonderful. But when it comes to actually giving feedback, this politeness can have a backside that when you're doing something wrong, less people can tell you, and so it's even like harder to improve something. Yeah. And how can we give feedback in a polite way and making it clear that we are not like criticize anyone or wanted to like harsh someone, but literally that, hey, this is like not working, or I think that this product should be marketed in a different way, or even like telling a friend that, hey, maybe it's better for you to change your workout routine or makeup or anything. How to do it in polite way and in a way that it benefits the person you are giving feedback to.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think the couple of things pop up here. So if it's in the business sense, ultimately you're thinking about moving along goals, timelines. And if something isn't moving along, it's for you to intervene and say, okay, how do we address the situation? How do we learn from this? Then you've got to think, what is the culture? What is the cross-cultural communication of the person I'm passing the message to? For example, in certain cultures, you can politely give the message to somebody, and they understand what you're talking about. So it's almost like a diplomatic, not really pinpointing a mistake, but you kind of just hint at it and somebody just gets it and moves on. In other cultures, they're not used to that. They're very used to direct finger pointing, and that is what they're used to. You have to tell them, this was wrong, you made a mistake, otherwise that's the diplomacy part won't work. So you've got to think about who you're communicating with. Ultimately, how you convey the message depends on the person and what you're trying to get across. Bottom line, if something isn't working, you've missed a deadline, you have to communicate that. So, okay, guys, we're having a team meeting or we're having a one-on-one, that this is what we were working on. How is the project looking? And the person's going to tell you that, oh, yeah, I didn't get to doing that. Or you can tell them that I thought, today we were supposed to do this, review the feedback and move on. It looks like we haven't got that stage yet. Tell me a little bit about that. What's been going on for the last week? So by saying that, you're giving the other person an opportunity just to say their story, to give them, they might have been working on something else from another manager or another team member. You don't know. So you don't want to just point fingers. It could be having to reallocate tasks, for example. The other thing is that, the goal setting could be wrong. The timelines need to be shifted slightly. So for example, they might say, well, I've been doing this, or you know what, I completely just missed the point, I forgot. Whatever it is, you said, okay, this is not happening. In order to make this happen, how can I best help you? What do I need to help? Do I need to pull somebody else on the team? What can I do to help you meet your goals on this? Because, we have a deadline, it is in a week and it's firm. We can't shift that. And before that, we have to have a first draft and a second draft, whatever that might be. So you want to help that person and you have to keep track on what's going on as well. So try these little things, make the goals slightly smaller, so baby steps to check in earlier. Rather than say, come to me at the end of the week, say, okay, I'll tell you what, why don't you check back in with me tomorrow, see how you're feeling about what we just talked about and tell me what the plan is. Or why don't you speak to so-and-so on the team, I'll brief them after the meeting to help you out. Come back tomorrow and tell me how that's going. So what you've done is you've broken up into small steps. And as a manager, as a leader, these are some steps that you should get used to delivering as well.
Oh, thank you, Rita. It's such a wise approach. And I hope we can, everyone can learn from this, because the way you treat this communication and diplomacy, it's very, very wise. And personally, sometimes I just like to reflect on our UMA talks and think, all right, I will do this and this in my team. And when I do it, guys, literally it works. And I advise you to try and to see how it will work at your scenarios. Rita, I'm so glad that we touched the feedback topic today. And because we have one more question, and it is from our follower, Diana. And Diana is asking how to be polite and be clear and concise at the same time at written communication, because what I noted that it is super easy to sound rude when you text or when you email or when you're at company Slack chat and you're trying just to say it short. So how to do this?
That's actually a really great question, because we talk about concise communications, but at the same time, being overly concise can appear just rude or condescending, or can actually start up some conflict going on, and we do not want that happen. So basically the messaging there is that yes, you should be clear and concise even on written communications, but there's different ways of doing that. For example, you can still be polite in your request. So if you're asking someone to do something, instead of saying something is late, for example, don't just say you missed the deadline, so that, how's it going, deadline's coming up in an hour, something like that. So it's almost like you're trying to create some sort of a written format to create some sort of a conversation going on. If it's on email, same sort of thing. Sometimes, and this is the thing, it depends what you're communicating. If it's daily back and forth conversation, it's probably going to be short anyway. Just keep it a little bit kind of polite, so it's fluid conversation there. If it's something you're preparing because you have an issue with somebody, and we've all done this at some point where we've written a big email or something because we're angry at the time, or we want to get something done, do not hit the send button. What you should do, write it down, save it in your drafts, come back, ideally the next day, or at least after a couple of hours, read it back. And then you think, oh my gosh, that sounds really harsh. Read it back and think, what is the point of what you're trying to say? Is it you're trying to say, I'm frustrated? Or is it trying to say that, because remember, this is a form of communication for business. This is for work. You're a problem solver. You're trying to say that this is an issue. I need to get from A to B. I'm not being able to get to B because of X, Y, and Z. So what you're trying to now say is that this is happening. In order to meet my deadline in a week's time, this is not happening, and I would like this, and this to happen. So you're being clear that what is the issue, how you want to solve it, what help you need from the person you're writing to. There has to be some sort of a purpose to this communication. Sometimes you can take it offline as well. You can say, okay, there's an issue, and you can just have a call, a face-to-face, like a Zoom meeting or a FaceTime or an in-person meeting if you're meeting in person now. So it really depends on the circumstances. And also, Natalie, you've got to also realize that there's different forms of communication. We've spoken today really about spoken oral communication. We've touched upon written communication as well, but there's also, graphics, digital communication as well, uncommunicate, sort of the unwritten word as well, just by acting, by actions and motions. These are all different ways of communication, and you need them in different formats and in different situations in your life too. So I think it's worth bearing in mind that this is a really, really vast topic that, you have to think, what is the situation? When you talk about concise, think about how. Always, being empathetic, listening really helps as well. So just think of these skills that we've been learning over the last few weeks as well, when you're being communicative as well.
Oh, thank you, Rita. And it was the last question for today. And guys, I hope you will join us next week, because we're gonna talk about building trust. We will reflect on our experience of communicating, of resolving the conflicts, and because technically we need all these superpowers and all these skills to build trust, to grow our network, to grow our community, and to nurture them.
Yeah, I love that topic. It's a fantastic one, and it really goes on well from communication. So looking forward to that one.
All right, thank you guys. See you soon. Bye.
Bye everyone.